So now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Matt Carmichael, Senior Vice President and Editor of What the Future. Matt, you have the floor.
Thanks, Ellen. Looks like we're at the top of the hour, so let's pause for station identification.
This is DJ John Richards on WTF with Matt Carmichael, where the future of music matters.
Hey, everybody. The future of music does matter. It matters to bands and brands and fans. Today, we'll talk about how. I'm Matt Carmichael. I'm the editor of What the Future, the award-winning Foresight magazine from Ipsos, and head of the Ipsos Trends and Foresight Lab. Each issue, you might have noticed that each issue of What the Future is littered with song lyrics. That is my fault. Each issue is written with a soundtrack. This issue had a lot of LCD sound system. If you read our healthcare issue, we interviewed cellist Zoe Keating about the situation with American healthcare. And I've listened to a lot of her cello music as I'm writing these as well. Also, the National seems to play pretty prominently in the background. Sometimes when I'm doing these webinars, especially our gender webinar, I like to bring music into it, because how do you talk about the role of gender in our culture without talking about Aretha's Respect? And more importantly, the original version from Otis Redding and how she flipped the script on it. In other words, this issue is very near and dear to my heart. And yours too. 94% of you, according to our data, report listening to some music each week. Good for you, America. And it is good for you. We'll talk about that too. Now, in a past life, I used to be a concert photographer and a rock critic. I shot a lot of bands. You'll see some of that in the issue, and you'll see me fanboying a little bit from time to time, which is not only self-indulgent, it's also a good example of the way people express their fandom. Music is a big part of my life, and according to our data, it's a big part of most of your lives too. But it's also part of our jobs. We use music in our ads. We use music in our brand experiences. We use it to create soundtracks for our stores, our coffee shops. We soundtrack our TVs and movies. And our brands build relationship with artists and bands. We use immersive brand experiences at real-world concert festivals. And we'll do even more of that in the metaverse. We'll talk about all those things today. But first, I want to start with a quick little music story. The first interview I ever did as a journalist was a jazz vocalist named Jon Hendricks. This guy. He was in his 70s at the time and met me in his hotel room in colorful polka dot pajamas. His wife made me hot chocolate before she and their daughter, all of whom performed together, ducked out to the gym. Hendricks told me story after story from his amazing life and career for literally hours. At the end, he told me it was the best interview he'd ever done because I just let him talk. And I was just amazed to have this audience and this gift. He signed a CD for my dad, a fan, with what he said was a short jazz poem. It was a couple of music notes and a single word. It's a reference to a line he sang on the 1950s George Russell, New York, New York. Here it is.
I wrote the shortest jazz poem ever heard. Nothing about hugging or kissing. One word. Listen.
It's good advice for journalists, music fans, brands, and webinar audiences alike. So today, if you listen, you'll hear about the future of music. What will change? What won't? Oh man, we've got a rockin' issue. We're going to talk to bands you know, bands you will remember that we were the ones to introduce you to, DJs, brands, promoters. We got a ton of data tying it all together, and we've got music itself. So sit back, put your headphones on, close your eyes, pour a drink, and let's dive in. When we think about the future, we're trying to think about all the things around the future of whatever our topic is. And since this is music, we're thinking about all these kind of things. Because technology evolves. Early music videos were just a camera pointed at a band playing. Then MTV gave us an aha moment, as the video for Take On Me demonstrated that videos could take on a narrative form and elevate the song. Later, early streaming on the internet sounded like a tinny, choppy garbage, but listeners heard the potential of always on, always available everything. It's where the Grateful Dead's 78 set in Cairo was just a click away instead of a grail hunt among tape traders. Then iPad and Spotify changed how we find music and carry music. Viewed in that way, the metaverse as a concert experience seems only a matter of time. The future of music will certainly be influenced by technology, but it's also good to think about the things that are less likely to change. How will the old and new music mix in the coming years? We'll think about all of that. We'll think about the live industry. We'll think about the artists. We'll think about the way we consume music as fans. We'll think about our fandom. We'll think about the metaverse, of course, because how can you talk about this and not talk about that? And we'll talk a little bit about intellectual property, which might not be the sexiest thing, but it's pretty important in this space too. But let's start our discussion with something that likely won't change, but will evolve. AEG Presents owns venues and produces live events and music festivals such as Coachella. Marisol Siegel works with digital partners to build products and drive awareness with a goal of, as they say in the industry, putting butts in seats. She sees a long-term role for in-person and streaming experiences, but she also sees that virtual and live can work side by side and drive engagement for each other. This is a very particular example of a non-binary future. In the near term, if not forever, there will be a place for live in-person concerts. There will be room to experience live events through streaming media. Siegel says there will likely be more ways to experience music in virtual group settings than we can't even imagine today, and they feed off each other. Here's what she told me, other than the fact that Duran Duran is her fave live band to see, which is totally legit because they are a notoriously great live act. Sorry, couldn't resist.
I believe that there is a place for live streaming. We've seen it for a long time with the Coachella live stream. It is huge globally. People, people can't go to a show. They want to watch a show. They're a fan of the bands. They have a new avenue to do that. If my favorite band was live streaming, I would probably pay for a ticket. I would definitely watch it free. It's about cultural moments. It's about brand partnerships. It's about super fandom. That's what that medium really is about. In terms of the metaverse virtual live streaming experiences, I also 100% think that there is a world for that. That to me is much more generational. It's about the younger generation who's very much digital focused, tied to gaming, which is, bigger than everything.
She points out that these virtual experiences can be a gateway for younger audiences especially. And she said that a lot of the audience is young and has never been to a concert at these kind of metaverse things or the gaming concert experiences. And she says those experiences for them are their very first concerts, and they open a world where they want to see those artists live. During the pandemic, live music was a much missed aspect of normal life. In a panel of college-aged young adults conducted by Ipsos, one said, "I didn't even realize that was something that I actively ached for. I miss it so much." As the world is reopening, music festivals are filling and arenas are rocking again, filling a critical need, says Heather Carruthers, the president of Ipsos UU. She says, music plays a universal role in shaping our identities and bringing us together. That need will continue, including in virtual spaces. For younger Americans especially, live music is something they want to keep as part of their lives. And that will likely prove true both in person and virtual shows. Sammy Tauber is a Gen Z Australian musician, an artist who performs worldwide as a human and metaverse-wide as a super sentient, crime-fighting, cyborg heroine. As she says, Vinci, her character, is a musician and an agent from the future. And Tauber is all about democratizing music and the creator experience. She's building new ways to interact with fans, including NFTs, a novel she's working on, and an immersive world where the fans will help create. One topic that comes up in the future of music is the idea that AIs will create music for us. Although she herself performs as an avatar, Tauber doesn't think that we'll really create our music virtually just yet. But how long will it be before the music is created virtually? Here's what Sammy told me.
I don't think humans will accept that, and I hope they don't, because there's an intangible nature and quality to being a human that you can't get from an algorithmic filtration bubble recommendation hologram AI best friend. But I do think it will become part of the world, like whether we like it or not. And once you've accepted that, because I think there's no point going against it, once you've accepted that, it's kind of then working out, well, it's actually then doing the deep inner work and going, well, then if this AI can do exactly what I'm doing, like as a clone, like literally make a song, then what is it about being a human that I can give as an experience to people that this technology cannot? A lot of it is also like the divergent creative mind. It will be a while before AI can literally break its own repetitive patterns and behaviors. And the thing about human nature is it's unpredictable. And I think that should be encouraged and embraced.
As I said, Tauber embraces that with her fans as well, and uses digital tools to connect with those fans. She's not alone in that. Even terrestrial real-world performers are finding new ways to build connections. But before we get there, it's the quarter hour, so let's pause again for station identification. This is Radio Free WTF.
Hey, what's up? This is Dave from Glass Animals, and you're listening to WTF with Matt Carmichael.
I'm sorry, did he say Glass Animals? You mean the Billboard #1 Heatwave band? You mean one of the most streamed songs in Spotify history with 1.8 billion plays? If you don't know it, your kids do. The music world has shifted so that now everyone can be a creator. While there are always ways for listeners to create fan art or make mixtapes, now they can share their creations widely with each other. It's a relatively new aspect of how music can shape community. Glass Animals, Heatwave, the pandemics, they saw that as a way to formalize that process. With the open source project, lead vocalist Dave Bailey gives fans access to creative building blocks. During the pandemic, Bailey realized that creativity and creating were keeping him sane, and he wanted to give fans tools and starting points so they could create too. So he open sourced sound clips, album artwork, and more, and let fans do whatever they wanted with them, while encouraging them to share their creations on social media. It's all part of the explosion in how people interact with music and discover it, Bailey says. He says people find their music in all kinds of places. Quote, I quite like looking at YouTube comments and seeing where people find our songs. They will say they found it in the FIFA video game or Minecraft or Will Smith's TikTok videos. It just shows me that people are finding things absolutely everywhere in the music. While music is part of our lives in new ways, the old ways aren't entirely dead either. It's all about community. Here's what he told me, calling in after the band's sold-out show at Red Rocks.
I think the things that will never go away are the communities around music. I really think that's that sense of community when everyone's at a show and together and on a level, and this like shared consciousness is like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like just like a necessary thing for humans to do, is be part of something and feel part of a family. And I don't think that will ever go away. I think that's the most important thing about music, really, is the fact that if you're feeling lonely or you're feeling strange, it can make you feel less alone. It makes you feel, the sense of togetherness around it. It's so important. Bring people together. That's it. That will never go away.
That idea that music makes us feel less alone and less strange and more part of a community segues brilliantly into our next block. I think I promised some fanboy action. Well, here it comes. For nearly 2 decades, I've been listening to a terrestrial radio station that broadcasts thousands of miles from me, KEXP, Seattle. They were one of the first stations to stream all their content. It's listener-supported radio, it's all music, and it's programmed in real time by humans. In a magazine about the future, talking about radio might seem like an anachronism, but I promise you it's not. The morning show is spun by a DJ named John Richards, whose show I don't have fully time to describe, but it's part Gen X warm blanket comfort food nostalgia, part new music discovery, and part therapy session. He can weave a set from Mozart to punk rock to hip hop in a way that really only a human can make work. You heard him at the top of the hour introducing the webinar. Wait, you missed that? I guess I just have to play it again then.
This is DJ John Richards on WTF with Matt Carmichael, where the future of music matters.
Anyway, 40 years ago, video was supposed to kill the radio star, but radio is still thriving in some corners of the dial. So can KEXP's success hint at an important truth? Today we have lots of options to find and listen to music, some driven by human, some driven by algorithms. Richards believes that the human touch plays an important role and that KEXP's success shows it's a workable model. With something as personal and emotional as music, keeping humans in the mix alongside the tech-driven tools and platforms can be vital, he says. There's a place to go, he says, when you want and trust somebody to mix music, when you don't want to just sit there and feel a non-live cold stream. Humans need to connect with and through music. For KEXP's faithful, it's a community they feel compelled to share. Richard says that every band he interviews says fans make a point of telling them they discovered their music on KEXP. It's amazing that fans care that much, he says. And incidentally, when I was interviewing Dave Bailey from Glass Animals, I made sure to tell him that I'd first heard his band on KEXP. It's a thing. But back to that therapy session thing for a bit. KEXP, and John Richards' show in particular, have 3 mantras. Music matters, music heals, and most powerfully, you are not alone. I have a KEXP pin on my desk that says that. Arguably, this connection between music and mental health has always existed, but for many, myself included, it crystallized during the pandemic when music became a warm blanket to wrap yourself in. Ipsos research shows that mental health is a growing part of our wellness conversations. People get that music can contribute to their mental health, and that's a large part of why they listen. It's second only to entertainment. Music can heal. Music can also gut you. But mostly, music can get you through it if you let it. Technology will bring us music in new ways, but the emotions it stirs are still very human. Richard summed this up in a quote: "There's kind of everything." How we find, listen, and interact with music might change over time, but its impact on our lives will carry on into any future we can imagine. Here's what he told me.
Music is going to, as always, fill in the words that you don't have for yourself. They're going to sing songs that are going to tell the story of you. You can't come up with those words. You don't even know how to start. And then you hear a song or a mood in a song, and it could be Mozart to TV on the radio doing Trouble, or Mountain Goats This Year, or the New Radicals playing a song I love so much now again. And it's like those songs will fill in that blank. You should be doubling down on your love of music and your need for music in troubled times as you get older. And so I think for everybody, they're starting to just realize, I don't have a choice. This is like, I can't listen to news anymore. Can't look at the stupid phone anymore. And see, I can't look at social media. I need a break. So you go to music. That's what you've always done. It didn't matter. They were just different problems before. These are just a lot more serious and a lot more in your face. And so you go to music to get lost and to fill in all those blanks that you need every time. At least the people who do. There's plenty of people who don't. But there's very sad people living very boring lives.
As I said, the way we experience music might change. At the heart of that change is Ben Morris. Tech innovation has always pushed the boundaries of music shows, from Moog synthesizers in the 60s to Elvis Presley's posthumous hologram duet with Celine Dion in 2008. Industrial Light and Magic, the visual effects company behind the Star Wars franchise, takes that another step with the mixed reality experience for ABBA's triumphant Voyage concert residency, fronted by its de-aged virtual avatars. Creative director and visual effects supervisor Ben Morris says early feedback points to the show changing the way we think about live music. The question becomes whether or how technology will enhance or detract from the music and shows. He says you don't really want people to feel the technology. You just want them to feel the excitement and the presence. Another challenge is how much people will be willing to pay for shows featuring avatars of the actual artists, whether alive or not. Ipsos polling shows audiences are skeptical. And Morris acknowledges that earlier technology attempts have soured some audiences on the potential. He thinks we'll get past that, and that cinema, home entertainment, and live entertainment will change. But again, he thinks we'll still have humans. Here's what he told Kate MacArthur when they spoke.
I don't want to get rid of human performance. It's a wonderful thing. But the ability to capture human performance and restage it is an exciting proposition. And the technology that we use to do that is literally changing on a daily basis. Will it bleed into the metaverse? Will it bleed into even more augmented concerts? Will it bleed into cinema becoming more dimensional? All of those things, I think, are happening at the same time. I can't give you anything specific because I honestly don't know the answer right now. But people are starting to nibble and bite at ideas.
I love that he ends that by saying he doesn't know the answer. Because, of course, none of us do. But the futures he discusses are all plausible and all exciting. You know what isn't exciting, but we have to talk about it anyway? Intellectual property. It's vital to understand. Music's IP is currently a mess of complexity. Could blockchain technology help overhaul the system? Already we're seeing NFTs issued by artists like Vinci to govern rights to their music. If this becomes more widespread, it might be easier for artists to get fairly compensated for their work, and for brands and creators to reasonably and easily license music for videos, podcasts, remixes, and more. In that future, those who license music could wind up with better access to, or even partial ownership of works from established artists and emerging talent alike. Brands could more easily align with artists that fit with their strategy and their audience and their values and their purpose, says Philip Bryan, a partner with Ipsos Strategy 3. Simplifying the rules, he says, around intellectual property for music could open the floodgates. Music is already ubiquitous, but it might just be the tip of the iceberg. This could lead to more equitable compensation for artists and better compensation. Or it could dilute it, like the stock photo market has done for professional photographers, especially if AI-generated music becomes more readily available as a substitute, and endless songs can be generated for commercial use with little overhead cost. Music plays a role in building community and identity among fans, so it's a natural space for brands to play in. Historically, few brands have played more seamlessly than Pepsi, which has brought us iconic moments from Michael Jackson commercials to Super Bowl halftime shows. As the brand moves on from the big game, Catherine Carter is thinking about its future commitment to music fans. PepsiCo's support is far from dissipating, as the beverage maker is launching new forms of sponsorship to keep the connections rocking. The newest member of Team WTF, Christopher Good, connected with Catherine via email. So sorry, no sound clips. At nearly every level, advertising and sponsorship plays a role in music, from festival underwriting to instrument endorsements to radio commercials. Even the music featured in those spots. But like everything else in the business of music, sponsorship is evolving. There are endless possibilities within the Web3 space, says Carter. And sponsorship won't just be working with the biggest names on stage. She says, there are a lot of factors that come into place, but we always want to see who is creating buzz and authentic connections to an audience, even if it's small, because that connection can become a force at scale. I am back. So one of the ways that we think about the future when we're doing a What the Future issue is we think about the tensions that will drive that, the human opinions and reactions to things that are going on in the world. We think about those tensions, and then we can survey about them and see where we are today. And we can think about what happens if we shift along those tension lines one way or another in the future, and what kind of potential futures that might point us to. So today we're going to walk through 5 tensions that are shaping the future of music. Tension 1, real versus virtual concerts. We've talked about those a lot today. And today, most people think that virtual concerts won't be as engaging as real ones. But as ILM's Ben Morris points out, that's partially because so far we haven't seen anything compelling enough to change our minds. That, he said, will change as performers figure out how to present the visual and emotional information to connect with audiences and let the music reinforce it. He says, if the technology can break the barriers to you worrying about if that person is physically there or isn't, then you've got something really interesting. If, or maybe just when, the tech catches up to our imaginations, the virtual experience could rival the live experience. Or even more likely, it could create an entirely new kind of experience, one that will exist in addition to, not just as a replacement for, the real thing. Tension 2, reality or price. Engagement isn't the only issue with virtual shows. People also think the virtual shows won't be worth the in-person price. But even before we get to virtual concerts, we'll start seeing more and more tech at play in our real-world shows in terms of logistics, verifications, so long wristbands and sticker passes, and augmented reality content, says AEG's Marissa Siegel. But today, tech is holding that back. The other thing that you're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years, she says, because we're not there yet. You still cannot get a mobile signal when you get that many people all throttling the network. So 5G is going to play a big part in how we experience augmented and virtual realities in real-world spaces. Tension 3, new or familiar music. Given the choice, most prefer listening to music they already know and love. KEXP DJ John Richards thinks the pandemic drove people to the musical equivalent of comfort food. He says, a lot of people are looking back at the songs that meant something to them, because it's not just new music, it's classic stuff, protest songs, or just meaningful songs. This is a data point that'd be nice to have historical data on, but we'll track it going forward. And again, what happens in a future where AI can generate a new song based on your mood right at this moment? Will we get hooked on that, or will we stay hooked on the classics? Tension 4, music or the artist. Most people don't feel they need a connection with the bands or artists they listen to. Presumably, the music speaks for itself. But for many musicians, having that connection is important. In some ways, it's just good customer service and loyalty building. Social media has made that connection much more accessible. In the future, we might wind up with artificial intelligence producing music that's at least danceable. Sammy Tauber, aka Vinci, thinks that down the road, partially because the AI can't yet build those connections. She says, I think EQ, the emotional quotient, means more than IQ. And that is something that AI won't master for quite some time, she says. And our last tension, ads or subscriptions. Commercials have been used to underwrite content since the dawn of radio and TV. It's a trade-off most fans are currently willing to make. And sponsorship can lead to exposure for bands and new music discovery for fans. PepsiCo's Catherine Carter says the beverage maker relishes its role in the music culture. Quote, as a brand with deep musical heritage, we can use our resources and scale to help the next generation of superstars make the impact they want to make, or help new artists get their footing, she says. But as ads get more tailored and more omnipresent, will we eventually cross a threshold where consumers say, enough? So those are our tensions. They lead us to think about the future and create these kind of mini scenarios that we like doing on What the Future. So I'm just going to give you one of them today. And this is a world where the metaverse really changes the meaning of all access, that it's taken off, that these 3D virtual spaces become a place where people spend time. And in this world, concerts can happen on demand. They can happen at select times and even in select physical spaces. We'll see more stadiums like the custom-built ABBA Arena, enhanced by ILM's magical wizardry, and built to give you an in-person experience to virtual experience. But all virtual shows that you can experience in your living room are taking off as well. Sponsors are finding new ways of connecting fans to the music and the artists behind it. In-person shows and festivals become even more exclusive and high-end. Virtual shows, on the other hand, start to offer a complete range of price points. You can get a lo-fi stream with ads between the songs for one price. At another extreme, you can pay for all kinds of virtual upgrades, from views to customized experiences to one-on-one post-show meet and greets with the band's avatars that are streamed either for your friends and fans or to the band's audience. The ongoing financial struggle between artists and performers and platforms continues. But blockchain has made some aspects more equitable for artists, but there's still gaps between the creators and the money. In this future overall, the transitions make it a great time to be a fan and a pretty decent time to be an artist too. Another tool we use to think about the future is a spin on the traditional jobs to be done framework, which focuses on the tasks and outcomes that people are trying to accomplish and why they hire products and services to help them achieve that outcome. So we don't buy a recording, for instance. We hire one for entertainment and expression. We don't buy music collectibles. We hire them to express our fandom and belonging. Trevor Sudano, a senior engagement manager and trends and foresight lead with Ipsos Strategy 3, takes this theory forward with future jobs to be done. We take our powerful and plausible future scenarios that we develop through strategic foresight, and those scenarios help us define the circumstances in which people may find themselves, like a virtual concert. What will their new needs be? One job we imagined evolved around the live experience of the future. So imagine a world where instead of swiping across pictures on your phone, you can share a virtual capture of the whole concert experience with those who couldn't attend. Future jobs there could include helping me capture the experience in a digital format and helping me combine my memories and experience with friends and other attendees. Another potential job is about the green room meet and greet of the future. So imagine a world where a virtualized version of your favorite artist can escort you to the show and share in the moment with you. The jobs there could include things like helping me have a one-on-one experience with my favorite artist and helping me move around the show and experience the musician's performance from multiple perspectives. And finally, what about the creators? Imagine a world where you can make authentic sounding music without having to know how to sing or play an actual instrument. Future jobs there could include helping me to learn any instrument easily, helping me to tweak, edit, and blend music as it enters my ears. You can see how thinking about these kind of situations can lead to ideas for innovation now, and thinking through the products we'll need, the UX will require, and the customer experiences of the future. Which leads me to the point I always like to close on. That when you imagine possible tomorrows, you ask better questions today. The more you bring foresight into your research, and the more you bring research into your foresight, the better prepared you'll be for any of the plausible but uncertain futures. And hopefully, you'll stay tuned to What the Future, where we'll talk about this each and every month. That QR code there will take you to our free newsletter, where you'll get updates every time we publish an issue each month. Our next issue is going to be the future of reality. And if you thought this issue rocked, just wait until we give you our first double issue. We've got, I think, 10 Q&As lined up. We've got a ton of great data, and it's going to be an amazing read. I can't wait to share it with you. And hopefully you'll join us next month for that webinar too. If you asked any questions during this webinar, I will make sure and follow up and get those answered. You will also be receiving a recording of this on the other end. And I just want to say thank you again for joining. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed putting it together for you. And I think I have to play this one more time.
This is DJ John Richards on WTF with Matt Carmichael, where the future of music matters.
Thanks, John. And thanks all of you. And that concludes today's webinar.